Okay, today we are going to make our little soap dish out of real clay. Now this clay is ceramic clay. It is not the modeling clay that we used before. So you do need to make sure that you don't work it too much or it gets dried out. You'll get two sections of clay. You need to make your pinch pot first. So kind of squish it into a ball with your hands. And we practiced this last time, so make sure that you remember. Make a nice smooth ball. This is going to be a little bit bigger than the clay that you used last time, so sometimes using your messy mat will help make it nice and smooth. Then you push your thumb into the middle. It's a much softer clay, so it'll be a lot easier. And you pinch and turn. Sometimes I hold it in my hand. I pinch and turn. Little teeny pinches, little teeny turns. And I want this to be more of a wide pinch pot. So I'm going to start pinching it out a little bit wider so I can put soap in it. And I'm feeling with my thumb. I can feel right here and right here it's a little bit thicker. So I'm going to pinch down there at the bottom with my thumb. I'm actually going to put two thumbs in there and I can turn and pinch at the same time. Now you notice how I'm getting some cracks. That's because the clay is not quite wet enough. So I'm going to take one finger in your water and you're just going to kind of smooth some of those cracks out. Now be very careful with the water. If you use too much water, it gets muddy. I'm not going to smooth too much because I'm actually going to cover up those cracks. Now I'm going to kind of push it down a little bit on the table. And that looks like a good start to my soap dish. Now, the next thing, you can kind of set that off to the side on your table if you'd like. The next thing is to make a coil. And this is going to be the tricky part because this type of clay is much softer. So if I push really hard with my hands when I'm rolling my coil, it'll get kind of flat. So I'm going to take the extra part of my clay that I have. I'm going to tear off a little bit. I'm going to kind of squeeze it into that sort of hot dog shape. But I want it to be smooth. I don't want it to be bumpy like that. That doesn't look like a nice coil. It's kind of bumpy. So what I can do is I can smooth out those bumps a little bit. And then on my messy mat, I'm going to roll it back and forth until those bumps get smoothed out. And I can kind of feel it's kind of thumping. If you hear that thumping, just figure out where it's flat and kind of push it down gently. It should be a nice round coil. I want it to be about the thickness of your pinky. You don't want it to be thicker than your pinky. And I have a pinch pot already created, so I'm going to look and see if this will fit around my pinch pot. And it will. If it's too long, I can pinch that part off. I can just stick it there. Maybe I want it to be longer. I think I have a longer one right here. Maybe I want it to be longer. And I can curl this around, make that into a tail. I think that looks kind of neat. You can decide how you want to do it. Now I'm going to use this one, I think. So when you put this on your pinch pot, once you have the size determined, you need to do something very special because this is a different kind of clay. If I just leave that on there, it'll fall off. This is called scoring. And I'm going to show you this, try to get really close. So I'm going to take this tool. This is called a pointy tool. And you can sometimes take that extra clay off. With your pointy tool, you're going to scratch the edge of your pinch pot. You see how I'm scratching those? I know it seems like you're ruining it, but you really need to get those scratches on the edge because that's how the clay is going to hold on to itself. If you don't scratch the edge, this is called scoring, it will not be able to stick. This is the next good part. You need to take your fingers and just lightly tap some water onto those scratches. I'm not smoothing out the scratches. I want them to be rough. So I'm just tapping the water and then I'm going to kind of mix some of that water in. So it's nice and scored. So it should look really rough like that. I also have to do that on my coil. So I'm just going to take my pointy tool. I'm going to just keep my coil on my table. I'm going to scratch the edges, kind of in like little X's. I'm just scratching with my pointy tool all the way around. Take some water, kind of dab the water on, and then scratch it a little bit more. Now when you join them together, those scratches squish into each other and they'll stick. If I don't do this, it'll fall apart. Okay, so now I've got my scored edge. I'm going to take that, I'm going to squish it onto my other scored edge, and I'm just going to gently go around my pinch pot. I can pinch off a little bit if it doesn't look like it fits. And I can take my finger and I can just kind of smooth out where those joints join together. If I want to, I can pick it up and look at the side. I'm holding it so it doesn't get flattened. You have to be working with your hands. Your hands are your best tools for this project. Okay, so now if I have time, I can add my details like my head and my hands and my feet. I've already rolled a few balls. I like to just make my balls for my head and my hands and my feet. So this one is going to be my head. I'm going to pinch a couple little ears. With my pointy tool, I can use that to maybe make a couple eyes. And I can use this side of my pointy tool too. If I push that in, I can make a couple little eyes. I can make a little nose. I can use this flat side and maybe I can make some whiskers. Okay, now when I join this, I'm going to join this right where it looks like it's joined together. Put a couple more little eyes in there. I need to score, add water, score again. Wherever it's going to join on my pinch pot, I'm going to score, add water, and score again. And you see how it gets really kind of roughed up. That's good because it'll squish together. Now when I join these two, I've got to make sure that those two are touching, and I kind of gently wiggle it so I make sure that it's stuck. If it's not stuck, it will fall off. And then maybe I just have time for that. Maybe it's time to clean up and I don't have any more time. That's plenty. If I do have time, I'm going to add some feet. Now these look like they're too big, so I'm going to divide these in half so my feet are kind of the same. I'm going to roll balls, and then I'm just going to kind of squish my balls so it looks like they're little legs. Roll them, and then I'm just going to squish them so they're flat. If I roll it into a circle, that makes it pretty much an even oval when I squish it. Okay, so now what do I have to do? I have to score. Score, scratch, add water, scratch, scratch, add water, scratch. I'm just going to scratch everywhere where I'm going to have feet. Scratch, add water, scratch. I also have to do that to these, so I'm going to scratch, add water, scratch, join them together. Push, gently wiggle. I'm kind of holding underneath here because I don't want to squish the edge of my soap dish. Scratch, add water, scratch.
I'm sorry, can I interrupt you?
And then once you're finished, put it on the cart and I will write your name on it and you are done.